Congratulations! You have officially made it through one of the biggest video game droughts in recorded history. October is here, with well over 10 games worth buying for the first time since March. Some of the biggest games of the year are making their debut in the next 31 days, along with a great collection of scary games to help celebrate Halloween. Let's check them out. The original Overwatch established the hero shooter subgenre, which has been copied mercilessly ever since. Now its sequel is finally here 6 years later with some major tweaks to the formula. Overwatch 2 is set to completely replace the original game while transitioning to a free-to-play model. But probably the biggest tweak is moving to a 5 versus 5 team structure from 6v6. With 2 less combatants on the battlefield, things become more thoughtful and less tanky. 3 new heroes are included day 1, along with 8 new maps and 14 old ones. There's plenty of content to hit the ground running, but can the OG hero shooter revive the fading subgenre? It's October, which means it's also Halloween. The perfect month to get your pants scared off by a video game. Enter Scorn. This horror adventure has been promoted as an Xbox Series console exclusive since the machine was announced, and now it's finally here. If you're a fan of H.R. Geiger, this creepy combination of first-person shooting, puzzle solving, and crushing dread will get you in the mood for a truly spooky Halloween. Early indications are that it will get under your skin in more ways than one, so be ready. It's also coming to PC, but most importantly, it will be free to play for Game Pass subscribers. A Plague Tale: Innocence is an underrated gem of a stealth game. It deserves more sales and recognition than it's received, but maybe its sequel, A Plague Tale: Requiem, can finally rectify things. The rats are back, and Requiem gives brother and sister protagonists Hugo and Amicia new options for avoiding the swarms, as well as new ways to fight back, together. Hugo also develops some special powers that allow him to take control of the rat swarm. You're fighting a plague, so it's relevant to us right now, and being a next-gen only release, it's one of the few games that takes advantage of new, more powerful hardware. If you've overlooked the first game, don't make the same mistake twice, especially if you have Game Pass. The Ghostbusters franchise was once left for dead, but it has seen a resurgence over the past half-decade with multiple movies and other pop culture tie-ins. An entirely new generation has been exposed to the IP, so it's no surprise a new video game is here. Making things even more Stay Puft, Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed has a unique selling point. You can play as a ghost. That's right, it's an asymmetrical multiplayer game like Friday the 13th, where one person plays the bad guy while the rest take on the roles of heroes. You must either terrorize or cleanse a variety of authentic locations from the films. And since it also features cross-platform play, you can safely and easily cross the streams. When Ubisoft first proposed combining its pratfalling comedy critters, the Rabbids, with Nintendo superstars, fans were perplexed. Was Nintendo making a mistake, giving Ubisoft carte blanche with some of its biggest characters? As it turns out, Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle remains one of the highlights of the Switch's early life. Now, we're finally getting a sequel over 5 years later dubbed Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope. While it remains a strategy-driven game, the combat is much more freeform, and its outer space setting is far more compelling. Toss in some unexpected allies, and we have a game that should be filled with sparks of creativity. If you're a fan of Batman video games, it's been one hell of a dry spell. We used to be blessed with new and excellent Batman games every few years, but since the studio that created them, Rocksteady, decided to move on, it's been a 7-year wasteland. All that changes with Gotham Knights. Well, kind of. See, Batman is dead, and all that's left is a collection of his proteges to keep Gotham safe. That's where you and some friends come in. This cooperative-focused spin-off promises a deep combat system so players can work together in creative ways, and plenty of customization. Despite being in development for a long time, Warner Brothers has been very cagey about details, so we'll all be putting on our detective caps when it launches towards the end of the month. Borderlands 3 hasn't made the impact that its developer, Gearbox Software, expects. It's now 3 years later, and the game as a service has fizzled out, so the studio is reviving its story-driven take on the universe with new Tales from the Borderlands. This series is low on action, but high on story and choice. The first game has sold quite well since its release 8 years ago, so series viability and burnout aren't really a concern. This time, things are set just after the events of Borderlands 3. A trio of new characters tries to stop a weapon manufacturer from invading the planet Promethea. You play as all 3 characters with the hopes of finding a key to a vault holding untold riches. Former Telltale developers are working on it, so its branching plot is in capable hands. If you're a fan of JRPGs, Square Enix has been delivering over and over again this year. And the parade's not over just yet. Star Ocean: The Divine Force is the first entry in the action RPG franchise in over 6 years, and it shows. With all this time, its developers have managed to create the largest environments in series history and a brand new battle system that lets you control multiple party members. You can even fly. The new standalone story fuses science fiction and fantasy as it follows Raymond and Letitia as they attempt to save a planet under siege and recover one of Raymond's crewmates. There's a 2-hour demo available right now if you want to dip your toes in the ocean before diving in. October and witches go together like chocolate and peanut butter, so Bayonetta 3's release this month makes too much sense. Once again, you take control of the titular sorceress as she travels to the island of Thule to stop the evil homunculi and their leader, the Singularity, from destroying several worlds. The stakes are high, the hair is long, and the action is intense as you now have the ability to transform into gigantic kaiju to stomp out Bayonetta's foes. Bayonetta 2 for the Wii U has sold terribly since its launch in 2014, but with a much bigger installed base on Switch, the hopes are that this third game can save the franchise from disappearing for good. With Platinum Games at the helm, you can expect a deep combat system and unflinching, bizarre content synonymous with The Witch's prior brews. We don't blame you one bit for being skeptical of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 after last year's release, Call of Duty Vanguard. Uninspired and rote, it's one of the worst-selling Call of Duty games in years. The original Modern Warfare 2 is one of the best-selling ever, but don't be fooled, this is a new game and not a remaster or remake of the original. There's a lot at stake. Next year will be the first year without a new Call of Duty in over a decade, so this one needs to hit and have legs. The good news is that it appears to be comfort food gaming. It has the typical Michael Bay style campaign and an extensive online multiplayer suite, but nothing that really rocks the boat too much. It also includes modern weapons and vehicles for those who have tired of World War era games. Plus, the perk and gunsmith systems have been completely reworked. Tack on extensive Warzone integration, and it just might be capable of holding the line for the next 24 months. Thanks for checking out our look at all the games worth buying in October 2022. We've entered the busy season of the gaming calendar, so make sure your browser is tuned to sifted.net to keep track of it all and likely discover your next favorite game. If you like what we're doing, head to patreon.com/sifted and drop us a pledge. We'll see you in November.